This is a tale of two cities, Chicago and Peoria. It's about how a large metropolitan area and a group of rural people, really, farmers, kind of got together to help each other, but they really didn't know it. There's a lot of serendipity involved in this. We're in the site of the old US Steel mill in Chicago's South Side. Below me is landfill. It's all slag. Now, you can't grow anything in slag. The city wanted to turn this into green space. They needed topsoil. They had plenty of that down in Peoria. Unfortunately, it was in the Illinois River. It was silting up the river to a depth of only 18 inches in places. So you had to get that soil from Peoria up here to Chicago. And here on Chicago Works, we usually do stories about the city. This one, although it starts here, it begins down in Peoria. Or more specifically, it begins here, between the cities of Peoria and East Peoria on the Illinois River. Situated in a wide portion of this scenic waterway, Lake Peoria was once home to huge numbers of fish and wildlife, as well as a haven for boaters and water sports enthusiasts. However, over the years, these numbers have been steadily declining as the lake has undergone some major ecological changes. Due in part to a navigational channel that runs through it and years of sediment flow into it, the lake has lost approximately 68% of its original volume. The average depth has been reduced from around 8 feet to just under 3. All of this silt is, in effect, choking the lake of life. How much silt is in here?
In the Peoria Lake area?
Yeah.
The calculations would be over 100 million metric tons.
That's a lot of dirt.
The one calculation, there could be 18,500 barges a year taken out for the next 20 years to get the Peoria Lake cleaned out.
With 14 million tons of sediment flowing into the river basin every year, it became apparent that the problem had to be addressed. Removing it would take some time, but the process would be simple enough. You just scoop it out. However, that created another problem. What do you do with all that dirt once you get it out of the lake? While officials in East Peoria were pondering that, the city of Chicago was facing its own dirt dilemma. The city had acquired 17 acres of prime lakefront property from the USX Corporation on the southeast side and was planning to turn it into new park space.
As we all know, there are parts of the lakefront that have been dedicated to private use, so the public cannot get access to it. This site was always off limits to the public, but it was Daniel Burnham's vision that there would be one continuous route of green along the lakefront for the public to enjoy. This is one more piece of implementation in a 100-year-old plan in order to make the city accessible to the public, a beautiful lakefront. It's really the jewel we have, and it's what we're known for. The fact that we could bring it this far south, I feel, is a tremendous accomplishment for the city.
The area was part of a larger 573-acre site that was once home to the bustling US Steel Southworks mill. Years ago, city planners began to envision the area as a new lakefront neighborhood with businesses, homes, roads, and, of course, parks. Well, needless to say, these planners soon came to realize that this former steel-producing site also had its share of problems. The area was covered in slag, a byproduct of the steel production process, or basically what remains after iron ore is melted down. This non-toxic, leftover material transformed the land into a barren lunarscape and made the ground literally rock hard. Growing anything here would be virtually impossible, and the idea of a new lakefront park seemed as vacant as the land it was to be built on. Enter Dr. John Marlin, a scientist from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources who specialized in dirt. He was taking a closer look at the Illinois River sediment.
Over time, one of my assignments was try and figure out what to do with the material and how to move it. And it's a shame to throw something away that's basically a resource out of place, and we started looking at maps to figure out where it might be economically and environmentally feasible to put the material, and places like old industrial sites in Chicago, St. Louis, Joliet, strip mines and things like that came to mind. And about that time, the City Department of Environment was talking with our agency about work in the Calumet area, and this place was mentioned.
It seemed almost too good to be true. The old adage of killing two birds with one stone fit this situation to a T. The unwanted sediment downstate was not only wanted, but needed here in Chicago. It would be a recycling project on a scale we've never seen before. There was, however, still one small hang-up. Initially, the thought of transporting the massive amount of dirt it would take to cover the 17-acre site seemed daunting. It would take thousands of hours of manpower to move roughly 5,200 truckloads of mud the 163 miles from Peoria to Chicago. This seemed not only expensive, but also impractical. Dr. Marlin, however, soon came up with a simple yet creative solution: move the sediment on barges.
What makes the barges particularly attractive in this case is, like most bulk commodities, the reclaimed topsoil, the main cost is handling it. And in this case, you can take it out of the river and put it directly in a barge in one move, and you can bring it up here and put it in a truck in a second move. So it's not like a situation where you would have to transport it to shore, let it dry, put it in trucks, and haul it somewhere. It just logistically works out very well.
Out there in the Illinois River with Peoria in the background is a barge load of soil that's heading up to Chicago. These barges hold about 1,600 tons. That's the equivalent of 70 truckloads. That's why it's so economical to transport it by water. And there's another interesting story. I'm standing on the East Peoria shore, and this little park I'm in is all landfill, and all the soil that made the landfill came from the Illinois River.
The city of East Peoria came up with the idea of putting it there. That area was a power plant where that park is now. It was literally a power plant, and the base material there is a layer of clay. And the sediment was placed on top of that, and it worked very well. And Dr. Darmody at the University of Illinois has observed the soil formation process from the time it was mud until it became almost indistinguishable from central Illinois topsoil.
So with the transportation problem figured out and a $2 million grant from the state of Illinois, the Lake Peoria dredging began. One by one, bucket after bucket of sediment was scooped from the lake and into an awaiting barge. The silt is being systematically dredged to form a channel into Spindler Marina in East Peoria. This will provide major relief to boaters, offering them a passageway to deeper parts of the lake. And while the process looks simple enough, there is a certain degree of science at work here. Tell me about the design of this bucket. It's pretty special.
Yes, it's designed by a company called Cable Arm, and they design buckets that will dewater the dredge material. And the dredge bucket normally will suck to the bottom of the river, and this one's designed where it breaks the suction and actually lets it float to the top once it's full. And the other thing that it does, it will dig the silt, but it won't dig any of the original bottom. And the goal here is just take silt out of the river and not touch the original bottom.
After the barges are filled, they set off on the two-day journey. Starting up the Illinois River, they enter the Illinois Sanitary and Ship Canal in Lockport. From there, they head through the Calumet Sag Channel to the Little Calumet River, past Lake Calumet to a slip on Lake Michigan at 87th Street in Chicago. Some 70 barges, each filled with 1,600 tons of sediment, will make the trip that brings us back here to the USX site. For the mud on board, however, the trip is not quite over yet. The sediment is removed from the barges the same way it was put on, scoop by scoop. It is loaded into these industrial-sized dump trucks and hauled a short distance to its final resting place, this ex-steel processing site and future Chicago Park. One after another, the trucks dump the sediment. It is spread out like frosting over a cake, or more specifically, mud over a slag field. Once dried, it is pushed into piles to make room for more mud. This process will continue until the site is covered in about 2 to 3 feet of this new topsoil. By the time the project is finished, more than 100,000 tons of mud will have been spread over the site.
It's fields of mud, and it's a good kind of mudslinging. Politicians are known for mudslinging, but this is good mudslinging, and I have my hands dirty to show that it's really high-quality dirt.
As chairman of the Illinois River Coordinating Council, Lieutenant Governor Pat Quinn has worked closely with Dr. Marlin in putting together the Mud to Parks project. He sees this pilot program as the first step in finding other uses for the Illinois River sediment.
I really think we have a tremendous natural resource that we haven't realized. The mud at the bottom of the Illinois River, that it's silted into the river over decades, is extremely fertile soil. It comes from the most fertile farmland on God's green earth. So what we have to do is dig it up, put it on barges, and find places where it can make a difference. There's a lot of opportunities. We got to do it right here and then set an example for doing it all through the 21st century.
Dr. Marlin agrees. Get the park built in order to show that this soil has a greater purpose than wasting away at the bottom of a river.
My primary objective right now is to get this project launched, let it develop the plant life that's desired, and show that this is a good soil. And once the park district has determined that this is a good idea, I think you'll see a lot more demand for this at various sites around the Chicago metropolitan area in particular, where for years there's a lot of heavily degraded sites that definitely need some topsoil.
This is going to be the newest lakefront park out here. It's going to be enjoyed by thousands. There's a huge demand for open space. We're really fortunate, and I feel like the fact that we can implement something historical even today, it's really great for the city and everybody involved.
It doesn't look like much now, but once this is all graded and hydroseeded, next year I'll be surrounded by a field of green grass, all part of the city's plan to develop the lakefront on the south side. Now, what's more interesting is that this is the first time this land will be available to the general public, because they've always been denied access because it was private property, US Steel Southworks plant. And when it's all done years from now, the green space on the south side will rival the green space on the north side. And it all goes to prove that old adage, one man's trash is another man's treasure. This was Peoria's trash. It is now Chicago's treasure.